All right, so this is the ceiling fan that I'm about to show how we put it together. Not endorsing it in particular, just kind of showing how it looks and works as you assemble it. So I'll go ahead and post the link just in case anybody's interested. Like I said, generally like the fan. Thought it was a pretty good option. Not perfect, but pretty good for the price. All right, thanks. Of a quick install on a ceiling fan. Done this particular one a couple times, but it's been a few months, and honestly every time I get a few of the steps wrong and their video online isn't that great, so I figured I'd give it a go. 52-inch LED ceiling fan. I'll try to find the link. Just a Amazon purchase. Few things I like about it, a few things I don't. Everything's on a remote single switch, so there's no option to use two light switches like you might have with your existing ceiling fan. One for the light, one for the fan itself. This will all go to one and be wired in, and then you'll control the two separately through the remote itself. It's got a good amount of light output, a good amount of speed options on the fan, and a decent profile view. So all in all, I think it's a decent ceiling fan. Not perfect, but figured I'd do a quick install video. So let's get it going. Do a pause here as I go ahead and at least do an unboxing with a free hand. Okay, back. Just had to use my knife to unbox the or cut the tape. Get an idea what's inside. This particular model does have several down rod options, so you can do a relatively flush mount, pretty close to the ceiling, all the way down to this longest one. I'll check the manual for how long it is, about 1.5 feet. I don't believe that they can be chained together, so I think you pick one, the shortest one here, medium or large. So that's what you go. From my experience, the instructions are okay, but there are a few pieces that are a little less than clear. You'll get it, but you also might, if you're like me, might accidentally have to undo a few pieces to get back to the right spot. All those pieces are important. Pretty basic. A composite kind of wood. Seems pretty sturdy, very lightweight though. I haven't had any trouble with it as far as chipping or breaking as I've been opening them and using them and installing them, but certainly, not solid wood either, some sort of laminate and composite, and your stuff. So I have already, for the purpose of this video, already taken down my old ceiling fan. Figure if you can't get that far, you probably want some help on putting the new one up because it's a little bit harder to get them up than down. So I am just going to move over and start recording. Try to use this gimbal, and hopefully we can kind of see everything that's going along. First step will be to put up the mounting bracket. Like I said, I took down an old one, so this one should go nicely back in place. I know I am connected to a junction box in the ceiling. If you happen to be taking out just a light and not a old ceiling fan, make sure that you're not just connected into the drywall. That will not support the weight of a ceiling fan. Let's see. The manual does have a pretty nice layout of everything that's included. Hopefully you still have yours, but if not, you can kind of see there. Hopefully you can see what's included in it. My recommendation, you definitely need that screwdriver and a pair of pliers, maybe a drill bit depending on what you're working with, but should be pretty good to go. So let's get going. All right, got a helper here instead of trying to just use the stand. So went with some screws that came out of the junction box. I'm gonna go ahead and get this up there, and then we'll go from there. Like I mentioned before, it's usually easier to use the screws that came out. That way you know they fit, but of course use washers and other things to make sure that it doesn't pull through, as this is the support for the fan itself. So it's dirty. Of course, make sure that your power is off before starting this. Certainly don't want to get electrocuted as you're putting your ceiling fan up. Different drill bit, and you may need a longer drill bit just to make sure that you're able to get that in there flush without slipping out the, or just a screwdriver of course will work, but you do a lot of fair amount of work and with these screws. For an electric one myself. Keep nice and sturdy. Okay, in tight, got your bars exposed, we're going to work with those. Of course, is your grounding cable. Alright. Alright, so next one we're going to be working with the smallest down rod for this room, not a very tall ceiling. We want it as high up as possible out of the way of heads and hands. So we're going to be using this short down rod. And here, you kind of see on the page there, it does ask us to go ahead and take off the top black piece. So we'll do that. So just do this one screw, take it out, keep that guy. What's that screw? See? More. That's two. So I'm going to take both of those out. Down. Right, I decided to move locations just to work a little easier while I'm also filming. So I selected, like I mentioned, the shortest down rod. I disassembled like I showed a second ago, took just the top off, just took a few screws out. And now the piece here is, the reason they have you take this off is really so that you can select whichever down rod side you like. Now we're going to thread the down rod through these wires through the down rod. I think the only thing to remember here is which side it is directional. This extra screw hole here will be needed to reattach the black cap piece there. So I'll do that real quick and then come back with the video. Okay, threaded the wires through the motor on this side, loosen these two screws, align that hole with that one. Then you're going to see if I can do this with one hand, probably not very well, but align them and put the pin through, and then you also put the safety pin. So you'll need both hands, but after I put this through, also be using this pin to secure it and retightening those screws. So do that real quick and I'll come back. Okay, like I mentioned, pin on the cottering pin through this pin. These two are tightened with a screwdriver. They're not going to go in all the way. They're going to be sticking out, and that is what this piece is going to be for. As you can see from the instructions right here, I'm going to put this down. That will cover our pins that are exposed. So let's see. Go here. I'm working with one hand, so apologize for the video quality, but get down, go straight down, and we will take that through here. Snug fit. I can tell I need, again, I need two hands, so I'll go back after the next step. All right, got a little help here. So now we're gonna move on to the next step. As you can see, we got the hood down all the way through it. And now we will be putting on the piece that will cover up the junction box, and will actually connect to the top of the ceiling, or touch the top of the ceiling. One thing that is not obvious is this step. I almost missed it, and I need to grab the another cover that will go and cover the pins on this one. So I think I might have left that one. I'll grab that really quick. All right, and this will be important which way it goes, because this one should be pointing towards what will be ultimately your ceiling. So these go through here again, go up. They should just loosely hang, just fine. Similarly, going now onto 11, same thing. I'm gonna go through, thread the wires through first, and that should be pointed up. The reason that will be pointed up is because this piece, trim piece, will be covering the screws that ultimately tighten this into the junction box. Got that. Now we're gonna put back on our black cap that will be used to hang this assembly in the ceiling. So, I think just like the other pieces, I'm gonna thread it through the hole here. Down, and then there were two screws and a pin that held this one in place. So I find remember which ones are which. There's the pin. Second.
What are you looking for?
Did I put the wrong pin in?
That one lays on top. Press it.
Yeah. Yep, so this goes on first. This goes through. There it goes. So that, sorry, I did this a little bit ago and forgot. So you can see that once you have threaded it through the down rod, it will click into place. And then when we use these screws to ensure.
Can you show me what screw?
Okay, 2 of these, the ones that came out of it earlier. So again, this is going back together just the way it came out. So if you remember that, you'll be okay. But it can be, if you're like me and did it a little bit ago, and had to get distracted. Than that. So let's see. Okay. And then now to tighten those in. Okay, I'm just making sure I get the right ones. So, don't recommend using an electric one probably if you're not comfortable, because you can over tighten it. So if you're doing it, you need to be comfortable. You're not going to over tighten it. Be comfortable with the drill you have. Here's a second one. This one will not go all the way through. This one will just snug in there and create tension against the down rod. There we go. Same thing. Too tight, very snug now. And of course, it's going to be hanging like this. So ultimately, that metal pin is very important because that is the thing that's ensuring it cannot come off once it's set in place. Okay. So, and of course, if you had changed your down rod, you would have changed out this green. I take that back. This will be on, but this black piece would go on whichever down rod you selected. So we're now going to move into putting this up in the ceiling. We will be connecting these wires, of course, to the receiver. It'll be pretty straightforward because they can only plug in to the proper one, and then we'll be hanging it and tightening it. So that piece, not too bad. The other piece that can be a little tricky is assembly with the LED fixtures. So we'll take a break and go reassemble up on the ceiling. Moving on to putting this in the ceiling. Like I said, we'd already put that bracket up earlier in the step. So now we're gonna hang it like in step, looks like on 16. I do think these instructions get a little brief on it, but basically gonna hang this in here. You can see that ball is gonna hang directly in this, and then it should kind of click into place. So I had 2 switches previously. Not electrical advice, but since I know I'm going to go down to 1, I am just capping off that one with a wire nut. I'm going to go and get some electrical tape and tape that off before I'm done to make sure it doesn't come off but isn't on there tightly, and then I will just be relying on 1 switch to control both the fan and the light. So you can see, you probably won't be able to see it too well, but it's going to slide in over the top. I need to get a little higher to see myself. And kind of clicks. So this is one of those things where if you do have the longer down rods, it will make your life a little bit easier on the installation, but the short ones work as well. You can rotate it. This one is not keyed. I take that back. I believe it might be keyed, so I'm going to check and rotate it until it, see if I can find that click. Fall down into place. Interesting. There it is. So yes, that's important so that it does not rotate and does not fall out. You should rotate it, make sure that it gets and clicks into place with that keying mechanism that is on the ball. Okay, I'm gonna take a break and do some things with my hands, but basically we're gonna move on. We're gonna use these 2 connectors, connect to the remote, or the receiver, I should say, and then I will be wiring in my my power. I'm going to go through that. If you're not comfortable doing the wiring yourself, definitely use an electrician. I am not an electrician. I'm not giving advice on this. Just gonna connect my appropriate colored wires for my hot and my cold and my ground. Make sure you're grounding, and then we'll come back when those are wired in. Thanks. All right, I know some people would be annoyed that I didn't show the wiring, but since, again, I do think it's important that you understand how, because every house is gonna be a little bit different. For mine, again, I'm going from 2 switches to 1, so I'm deciding to cap off one of my switches and leave it disconnected. making sure that I use wire nuts and electrical tape to make sure they're safe and they're not making contact with anything on both sides. And then the rest is really, honestly, it's just your line to your line, your neutral to neutral, making sure all your grounds are connected. There are multiple grounds in there. And then the trickiest part is when you're sliding the remote into the cradle, getting the wires so they're not crimped, making sure everything stays connected. So you want to make sure your wire nuts are really tight. You're giving them a little tug before you're putting in there because there's going to be some jostling. Then you put this in. There are two screws here. So you can kind of see that. I'll go back through it. You're going to line the keyhole through it, push it up firmly, and twist. And then at that point, you can see it looks like it might have some crib there, so I'm actually going to take it off just a little. That was actually the antenna sticking out from the receiver. This will be fine. Find out. And then again, making sure nothing's sticking out. You'll have that in there, and then you will be tightening these screws, which we'll go ahead and do. And that will snug it up against the ceiling. And I'm going to actually not use, in this case I'm not going to use, this is not a structural element, so I need something that you can get in there, tightening it up with the screw bit here. And you can see the gap closing towards the ceiling. Keep the same one over that until they're both tight. And then they are tight to your satisfaction, and you have no gap between your ceiling, nothing slides, sloppy. This thing should still be in the cradle. And then this thing is just a nice little clip in. You gotta find the keying, but then when it is put the right way, it snaps in. A little half twist to the right or the left, I believe. Let me find out. Yes, right or left, and it stays in. In the middle, falls out. Right or left, stays up. So that is that. We'll now move on to connecting this bottom piece, which is your lighting and your fan. You may or may not decide to do this, but I think that it's always good to do little checks along the way so that you don't get to the end and find out that you messed something up. So what I did is, at this point, the next step will be assembling the fan blades all the way before you put on the light kit, which would be the final assembly. And if you mess something up with your wiring, you'll have a lot to take apart. So what I do at this step is I turn on the power to the light switch. All of your electrical should be safe at this point. Everything capped off, everything good. With the power, I can then test. I just use the 1 on the fan, hit the 1, and you can see the fan starts working. I turn off quickly. The only thing I'm doing there is making sure that it has power, it's communicating, and a little sanity check before I do additional steps in case I need to go back and either add a faulty piece of equipment or a bad wiring. So do it, decide if you want to do that or not, but I do recommend it. We are moving on to step 23. I'm gonna do this out here before I get up there, just so everything's kind of pre-assembled. I have found this one's one of the easier ones once it gets up there. It's just 3 fan blades. Like I said, I take that back. They actually do appear to be solid, maybe a balsa wood or something, but super light, and have seemed pretty sturdy still. So you've got these 3 metal pieces, brackets that go in with the screws, washers, and nuts. So I believe we're gonna take each of these, get 1 bracket and 2 washers and 2 screws. So go ahead, that'll help it stay in place. A little pre-assembly will help once you're actually up in the air. Kind of likes to be threaded through, although it's not threaded, just kind of helps it move through. I'll do that. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this on 1, and then just trust me that we're repeating it 2 other times. And then go back, and I'll catch you back up when we're in there. So as you can see, that is it. And then it flips over. It's going to be going up in that direction. But we'll show you that in the next section. But I'll get 2 more of these going, and we'll catch back up. So now, like I said, we put the brackets on, put the screws in. They sit in pretty nicely. They're kind of, there's enough friction that they're held up there.
as I remember, there's not a right or wrong. They're evenly spaced, so you just pick one, and you can start where you start. And the tricky part, of course, is just making sure that you have a good enough view that you're able to line up. If you can get slightly higher than the screw hole, that of course helps, so then you can watch it guide its way in. If you can't, you have to feel your way through it. So, got one started. In there. The second one started. As you can see, I probably went a little quick on that one. That tension is one of the reasons it is good for this to be in a, make sure you did have it keyed in the top there. It is, can move around a little bit side to side, but cannot fall out. So again, I'm just gonna move to the next one. Same thing, these two sides will be touching each other, so it's another thing that's kind of helping you line them up at this point. See the first one there. Hold the grip. Grip as well. You want to be looking and make sure that your joints are pretty tight between the two. Got one left now. And can rotate this. At this point, it's lopsided, so it's kind of moving around a little bit. This last one in where it fits. Grab that one. There we go. Take a second for it to find the hole for binding. And that's that. So we are now through the step of assembling and all of the fan blades. So I go back around, tighten them up, make sure they're all nice and snug. Don't like stuff shaking and wobbling later, and you're good. So I'll take a break and we'll check out the next step, which I believe is the light fixture assembly.
We are on step 26, installing the light kit at this point in time.
So this, since they do have keyhole, I'm gonna loosen all three. I took one of them out. One a second. When you look at this, they're going to go through these three holes. This is the one I took out, so you need to align these two. Of course, you can put those screw heads through it, and of course, the center piece there, which is the wire. And when you rotate that, you get it flush. Get it flush. You gotta rotate it. So those are sitting pretty nice in there. Give you a hand to get free, and then I will find the hole for this one. Go back into, be a little bit of a challenge, not too bad, but something, and that's locking it in place. Make sure not to over tighten these. Again, probably not recommended to be used electric screwdriver. If you've got any instruction manual, it's going to tell you to use a manual one, but I choose to do this. It's wild. Okay, step is nice and easy. I'm going to move on to the LED.
We're gonna add the LED at this point.
That's this guy, and so I need the three screws.
They are up there in it.
Okay, yeah, the screws are already in it. So we'll take them out. Now, you will be aligning this. You're going to be putting this, which if I remember correctly is not the most fun part of this job. You're going to be putting this connector into this slot. That is one of the pieces that is not the most fun. So I don't know if there's one way that's easier than another. I'm just going to put it in there and we will see. But once you get one of these screws started, it'll get easier from there. So
I think it's easier to attach it before screwing it in, but that's
Might be.
my personal experience.
Let's try that. I can put the screws and the screwdriver down. This is nice and lightweight, this LED assembly. So let's see. Good advice. Okay, and there is a key on this where there is a nub on that, and so it'll only go in one way. So you of course have to go in this, that in, and then the trick is using your fingernails or something else to actually push it in, because you don't have a lot room to play with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it flat, get it aligned. What I actually tend to, there we go. I got it. Ooh, and she's on that. And I'm going to go and turn off my power. So that was me. Well, I validated that I did have power. I forgot to turn on my light switch. Don't forget that. So it is working, but it also blinded me, and then I didn't push it in all the way, so I need to start all over.
It is tricky.
And you should feel it kind of snap. It needs to be snug. Once you get it, there it goes. Could feel it that time. So, be good. You should be able to pull it and it not come out. I'm gonna turn on that light again just to double check. Again. Okay, so we got power, so we know that we have both the fan and the lights working. Off. Now I just have to. As you can see, the connector will hold itself its own weight, but I gotta find the screw holes now. It's not too bad, but gotta find them. This is the 3 outer ones. I'm gonna go through this. I can see one of them, and I might have to take a little bit.
Nope.
By just enough, and very close. I kind of feel it. This is, you can't, don't get lucky and can feel it. I will take it back out and sight it in, like, okay, got a second. I'll have to go back down and grab that in a minute. So what I'm gonna do is look upwards so I can move this around a little bit. Find the holes. Let's find one. There, found one. So that might be easier. Looking up. Find the holes. Got that. And then got my other 2. They're in my pocket. Again. I would strongly advise against over tightening this. Goodness, I'm dropping like crazy. This again is just a piece of plastic, so I'm probably being a little less careful than is advisable, because you could crack it if you over tightened it. And I can tell I got that a little tighter than it should be, because I'm not lined up with the other 2 screws. Let me do that so I can move around a little bit more before you find one. I'm sure thing to do. So if you did have a light, it would be handy. On this.
You're going away from. I think you're in the wrong holes. I don't think that's an actual one you should be in.
Alright, let's delete that. Again, it actually came unplugged. So I need to line this back up, flat. There it goes. Slid in. Nice and tight. Okay. I'm going to try and get the right ones this time. I struggled a bit before. Let's see if we can get it this time. So there's one.
Right, roughly here.
One.
Maybe to the left of them.
Okay. Little.
To the left. My left. There you go. No, move it.
Okay. Alright, and I'll get this one. So once you got two, the third should be pretty straightforward. So we'll stop recording and I'll get this third one in. Okay, so we are now done. I got the three in. That was, as you could tell, one of the more annoying things to do on this kit. And making sure that connection's in there good. Those are in there snugly, but not too tight. There shouldn't be any play in that, but you really don't want it any tighter because if you over tighten the screws, it definitely will crack this plastic substrate. So at this point, you should be turning your light on and making sure that both your fan and your lights work. I will say there's a slight delay in that. When you give it power, it does take a second for everything to respond. I've seen that in these kits before. It just takes a second. I don't know what exactly it does, but it takes a second to get the light on. And you can align the slots on this, and then a simple twist. There's no snap, as I recall. Just twists in, gets nice and snug, and now she's done. So now you can turn it on and off, and check the light, check the fan at 1 first, I recommend. Going through the different color modes. Fan's a little check. Bi-directional fan, but you're good at this point. You're just basically making sure that you didn't get a faulty piece. I will show you one thing that I recommend doing. Show you. We've got this switch. One on the left is now dead. I go cut to an example of what I've done in order to make that switch a better looking option. So this is an alternative you can use. If you are like me, you're gonna have a blank switch. The look annoys me, so what I went with was a rocker style switch, and then they do make covers that have screw holes here, screw the hanger of the remote directly into it. So now, and you can put a piece of tape or something. For me, it doesn't bother me too much. It is a little wobbly because it's always up there, but I keep my remote there, my switch here. I can turn it on and off. It was already on for the video. Comes back on, take this out, and you've got your remote somewhere to store it, and it doesn't look too bad like just a dead switch.
All right, so this is the ceiling fan that I'm about to show how we put it
Front to
together.
back, this took me maybe
Not endorsing it in particular,
45
just kind of
minutes
showing
if you don't
how
include all the stops
it
for
looks
videoing
and
things like
works as you
so
assemble
not
it.
too
So
bad.
I'll
Make it
go
a
ahead and
little
post the link just in case anybody's interested. Like I said,
but
generally like the fan.
overall,
Thought it was a
hope it
pretty
helps.
good option. Not perfect, but pretty good for the price. All right, thanks.